Josh from Portland, Oregon said, did I hear you correctly the other day when you said you want the G5 to have their own playoff? Yes, you did hear me correctly. He continues, why are people like you so opposed to having smaller teams have a chance to win a title? I'm not opposed to it at all. Quite the opposite. I'm a supporter of the only kind of model that would give smaller teams an actual shot to win a title. Josh, right now, you're in a no-win situation. You're in a situation where no small team, Josh, most of the Power Four can't win a national title right now. Kentucky's in the SEC. They've got zero shot of winning a national title. Okay, Purdue's in the Big Ten. They got zero shot at winning a national title. And yet they still have a much bigger edge than you do at the G5 level of winning a national championship. Now, what I've always believed is I love G5 football. I've watched it my whole life in some form or fashion, no matter what the label was. Okay, so I look at it and I say, dude, watching the MAC on a Tuesday night, watching a lot of these Sun Belt teams or Conference USA any given year or whatnot, this is really fun. I remember watching like Bill Clark at UAB and thinking, this guy may be one of the best head coaches in the country. I wish he competed at a level of the sport where a national championship was a realistic possibility. And to me, that's logical. To me, that makes sense. And yet, the most resistance you'll get on this topic is not from Power 4 fans. It's from fans of G5 teams. And they'll say exactly what our guy from Portland just said there. Why do you have such a problem with us competing for a title? Why do you have such a problem seeing you're not competing for a title? You're not. You think Boise State last year, maybe with one of the best players in the country on their team, had a shot at winning a national title? The difference is you define shot as being in the postseason. You're thinking mathematically, you know, like we've got a shot of 3 asteroids landing on the studio before the show's over. There's a shot of that happening. Whereas if we didn't have the show, we're not even giving the asteroids a shot. Yeah, Boise had a shot of winning a national title, but they didn't have a shot at winning a national championship. I think most sane people understand that, and it's just semantics when you use that word shot or opportunity. They deserve an opportunity. We agree on that. The difference is I want them to have a real opportunity to win a real title. Here's the sad part to me of all this. So right now, the best chance you have in making the playoff is just doing that, making the playoff, having access to a playoff, and then getting your skull crushed in. That's what happens. That's what's going to happen. The chance to get your head caved in is of more value to many G5 fans than the creation of a model that would give you a chance to actually win a title. A lot of them don't want that. It's always boggled my mind. But see, here's the thing. When I debate it on the merits of the argument, slowly but surely, they start to give way on their initial straw man stance. The straw man stance to me is, well, you never know unless you put them in. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You circle whichever, UNLV, Boise, whoever you think the best G5 team will be this year. You know, I know, the calculator knows, the head coaches of both of those programs know. They got no shot of winning that 12-team playoff field. I do not care how quickly and how thoroughly the stars align, not happening. You and I both know that. And slowly but surely, the bravado and the false confidence wanes from the top layer of the argument. So you effectively debate someone strong enough on the merits of that initial point, they'll cede that ground to you. And then what they'll say is, but if we're not in that playoff, we don't get the paycheck. And if we don't get the paycheck, how can we ever build our program? Now, that's a good point. That's a good point. Hey, quick time out. Check and see if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're not, I humbly ask that you click subscribe. It's free. It doesn't sign you up for anything. What it does is it helps us keep this show free so we can just do college football year-round. All right, back to the clip. But see, you're not arguing the same thing anymore, because I agree with you there. If you don't have money, you're broke. And if you're broke, you can't run a program effectively that can compete with the Texases of the world or the Michigans of the world. But you're never going to anyway. You're in the best of worlds, in the best of the the pulling of that playoff money, those dollars down to your level in the best of worlds there. You're never pulling anywhere remotely close to even, or even into the same zip code where you can see the taillights of the major programs. What I look at that and I acknowledge it for what it is. And I don't know how big the crowd is, but I've got a lot of G5 folks who look at it and say, no, you just feel that way because you hate G5 football or you hate those programs. You don't want them to have a shot. It's just lunacy, just total lunacy. Here's the truth. The truth is there's an obvious gap in levels of college football, but we haven't acknowledged it on paper. We've acknowledged it, at least most of us, with our eyes, but we haven't acknowledged it in structure. And so we've got, programs like Texas spending 10 times what the University of Texas San Antonio is, but we're still pretending they play the same sport at the same level, and we're pretending that they're competing for the same title. Now, if we had someone who is sports savvy but ignorant to college football walk in the door today, they'd look at that and say, well, that makes no sense. Well, you're right, it makes no sense. But there's more to it. No, there's really not more to it. Here's the other problem. The gap that I just talked about is not shrinking. The gap between the haves and the have-nots in college football is only getting wider. It's at this point, someone walks in the other door on the other side of the room and says, no, because you haven't heard what the portal's doing? You haven't heard what NIL's doing? Yes, I've heard. Have you heard? Have you heard what portal and NIL are doing to the competitive balance of college football? Yeah, Josh, it's even the sport out. No, it's not at all. It's actually never been more disproportionately tilted one way, and it never will stop continuing that way. But you've been fooled. You've been fooled because Georgia's not quite as deep, or Alabama's not quite as deep. That's true. That's true. So the very, very tops of the tallest trees got shaved off. Guess where the shrubbery landed? It landed in the lap of programs 3 through 15. That's the flattening of the sport. You went from having 4 or 5 programs that ran the sport to now any given year you got like 12 to 15 of them that can compete. Guess which conferences they reside in? Guess which level of the sport they reside in? Here's the really, really dirty part B of that. The portal and NIL have made glaringly obvious what was already the case. It's just expedited it in nature. You're a feeder system. The G5 is a feeder system. It's not being mean. It's just reality. I was sitting in the office of a current general manager at a college football program in the last month who hated this fact, but said, I hate it, but it is what it is. I mean, we look at it right now, and this is a guy also talking about it from the NFL vantage point. He said, dude, I talk to NFL folks, and they look at it like it's, he used Major League Baseball as a comparison. These are not my words, although I completely agree with it. The portal is actually illustrating what the reality of this situation is. The reality of this situation is you've got Major League College Football and you got minor league college football. Now, baseball acknowledged that long ago. Like, no one runs around saying, how come the Round Rock Express or the Nashville Sounds just down the road here don't get a shot to play for the World Series? Why are they denied a shot? Well, I'll tell you why, because they're AAA baseball teams. And we acknowledge that they're playing a different caliber baseball than their major league peers, not counterparts, peers. Here's what's fun about this, sad but fun. Inevitably, when I just said that, someone yelled at their phone or their computer or their TV, that's a disingenuous comparison. Why? Well, because that's a developmental league. It sure is. It sure is. The only difference in Major League Baseball, AAA versus major leagues, and college football is Major League Baseball has acknowledged that it has layers, it has levels to itself, and the AAA, AA, single A layers are developmental feeder systems to the major league level. College football, present day, is operating the exact same way. It just doesn't look like that on paper. It's not written that way. So like to take the Major League Baseball equivalent over in college football, we do have the Nashville Sounds developing players to when they get good enough, they eventually just go to Milwaukee and play for the Brewers. However, over in college football, they're also telling the Sounds, but you guys also, you deserve the chance to compete against the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Braves. No, they don't, because it makes no sense. Instead, they ought to compete against AAA teams where they've got a shot to win an actual title, and it's also fair and logical, and it's somewhat even footing. In college football, because of the jacked up way that revenue works from the media rights perspective in this world, we just kind of whistle and pretend like everyone's playing the same sport. And if you dare to say otherwise, you're trying to strip the chance to win a title from the little guy. Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's the role we've always played on this show. We hate the little guy. Oh, despise the little guy. Can't stand him. It used to be that every now and then, Boise, Oklahoma, 07 is an example. It used to be that every now and then you had a really good coach at the G5 level, and he got out recruited. He certainly never measured up on National Signing Day to the big boys, but that's okay because they could evaluate talent and they could develop talent. And every so often you'd have a Boise State have a lot of homegrown products, third, fourth, in some cases fifth year, get an opportunity on the big stage with the big boys that pull off a legendary upset. Present day, let me tell you what happens. Present day, Oklahoma doesn't offer any of those kids on National Signing Day. They don't sign with Oklahoma. But present day, after 2 or 3 years of those kids developing on Boise's dime, they're not there anymore. Don't throw Ashton Genty at me. That's one. I can give you 99 counterpoints to that. That is the overwhelming exception to the rule. The rule is, even if those G5 programs do go and evaluate some diamonds in the rough, they know what's happening, by the way. All the coaches talk about this behind the scenes. All they're going to do is invest 2 years into the kid, invest their money and time and energy into the kid. He's going to develop 2 years, and he's going to transfer to Michigan State. That's what's about to happen. So even the diamond in the rough kids, even the exception to the rule types that you used to have sprinkled across the G5 level, they're not even there anymore. The moment they get good enough to attract an offer, they filter up. It's the same way minor league sports work to the major league level. It's the same way college football works now. So you got some people who look at it and still want to recall some game that happened in 07. Well, how can we ever know if this would happen if we don't give teams a shot? And then you got other folks who realize, like everything else with this sport, those days are gone. So wouldn't it make more sense to have a model that makes sense? Apparently not. Apparently not. I can't wait. I can't wait to get the feedback on that one. We're just a mean show. That's all we are.